It's not easy when you are the government in power and you have to rule the whole nation. But there's no excuse to beat up on a minority group, to score a point with the majority, to stay in power. It's time to understand that no matter what ethnic group you belong to or what religious group you belong to or if you have no religion, that it's not acceptable to dismiss human right and democracy anywhere over the so-called, common good or national security or economic prosperity or whatever excuses the government want to put out. I'll list several examples where government has violated and abused human rights and democracy. For example, first, the Chinese government and their deliberate policy to suppress the culture and lifestyle of ethnic Uighur, the Turkish ethnic group and Tibetan living in China. Not to mention they continue to detain and jail many Chinese people um, or descendant or people who don't agree with the government. And the Iranian regime, of course, that killed protesters and imprisoned journalists in order to assert their authority. Or when the president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, stated that Muslim women cannot wear burqas that cover their face and body in public because it suppresses women. Give me a break. A European country with a colonialist history telling a Muslim that all women who wear burqa are being oppressed? Give me a break. I mean, how about giving voices to the Muslims who are wearing those things to begin with and not telling them that what they wear represents to them? Or when neo-fascist skinheads are openly tolerated and accepted in Russia for espousing beliefs that homosexual and Muslim are undermining the economy and the state. Or when the Israeli government removed references to what Palestinians call the catastrophe, the tragedy of Israeli creation from textbook for Arab school children, the expulsion in 1948. And by the way, I also post a link to a site where Jewish Americans can sign a petition to support President Obama's call to freeze all new Israeli settlements. And when our own current government continue to support the idea that everyone detained in Guantanamo Bay has no right, including our own Canadian citizen Omar Carter, and fighting tooth and nail to keep Muslim Canadians trapped in overseas from returning to Canada. These are just examples where minority rights are abused in the name of, you know, national interest, when it's all really just racism and people who are interested in staying in power or interested in greed, using money and using whatever forces they can to suppress and oppress the minority. And it's when you're a government leader, it's there's a tendency where you can abuse power, and that's why it's so important that most countries and all countries should have democracy where the government can be keeping check. And one of the tragedy to this day is that China is still without democracy. Um, no matter how prosperous, how rich they become, it will continue to be a small nation if it does not treat the Chinese people, all Chinese people, with some respect and give them the freedom that all humans have.